Hello, welcome to a how to draw video. I'm going to show you guys how to draw a simple skull real quick. So this is a frontal view. I'll show you how to draw side view and 3/4 view as well. So if you want to draw those views, feel free to skip ahead in the video. All right, so first things first is I'm just going to start off with a basic shape. The cranium of the skull is very round, so I'm just going to start with a round shape like this, drawing very lightly. And then I'm going to look and see, we have this kind of like almost like box-like shape that's somewhat curved at the bottom in the middle. So in order to get that middle, I'm going to first very lightly divide this into halves. And then somewhere around the bottom, I'm just going to draw two straight lines coming down like this. And then I'm going to connect them with a smiley face. So if you connect it with a smiley face and not a flat face, it'll give you that roundness of the upper jaw. Now, I'm going to also do this right here. These are called your Zygomats, I think. I'm not an anatomy person, I might be wrong. But in order to draw those, notice that they kind of cook to this part right here and go around. So it's kind of like a frowny face and it curves into a parenthesis. So I'm just going to turn this into a slight frowny face, like this on both sides. And then I'm going to turn them into a parenthesis on both sides as well. So it goes from a frown to a little bit of a parenthesis in order to get those cheekbones. All right, now in the middle of this area, if I look right across from your cheekbones, that's where the nose is gonna line up. So right across from the cheekbones, this is where I'm gonna have the bottom of my nose. I'm just gonna do kind of like a pointy triangle or like upside down V. And then this is kind of like essentially like an upside down heart to get this shape. So I'm just gonna do a curve and then go up like this. So it literally looks like an upside down heart. So all I'm doing is just doing these kind of like diagonal lines and then a little curve. And then you can draw as many details on the inside. I'm going to keep this one fairly simple, so I'm not going to draw all those details, but you can if you would like to. All right, now we see the eye sockets are fairly large. And if I look at them compared to the heart of the nose, it takes up a little less than half of it. So I'm just going to very lightly sketch off to the sides of the heart nose so that I know about how far down I want my eyes. Now I'm also going to measure using my fingers. The eyes are about the same height as the nose is. So I'm going to measure this height, and then I'm going to go up with my fingers, and that's where I'm going to put a little dot in order to be able to draw a line across. That's how tall I need to make my eye sockets, somewhere in that range of area. So the shape of the eye sockets are kind of weird. It's mostly just a frowny face on the top, somewhat of a flat line on the sides that's somewhat curved, and then a really big smiley face on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a little indication of where I want to stop the eyes first. I'm just going to do these little parentheses here first. So I'm just going to do a inwards parenthesis like this and an inwards parenthesis here. This is pretty much just making up the eye socket area. And then I'm just going to do a slight frown over here, slight frown. And then I'm going to do a smile, kind of dropping down and curving into the eye socket area. So it's not like a perfect circle shape. Depending on how cartoony or stylized you want it, you can make it a little more circly. So play around with the shape of the eye socket and you can get a bunch of really cool expressions and stuff if you want to do more of an animated skeleton. All right, so now that I have these, you can draw details in there, or I'm just gonna black them out with my pencil. But if you would like to do details on the inside, definitely feel free to. That's kind of fun to do sometimes. So here I am just blacking these out. And then right here I have like, I think they're my temple bones, and they're just kind of like a little curve line off to the sides of these. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of like a dent on the sides of the skull, and that just goes right up there next to your eye sockets. And then I'm just gonna refine this. So the cranium, I just wanna keep that fairly smooth, but I can darken the top of my cranium. Some people's cranium has a little bit more of a shape to it, or a little bit more dips. I'm just keeping it simple. So we got the temple bones, Zygomats, oops. And then we got the upper jaw. Now for teeth are a little weird. The easiest way is we already have the bottom of the teeth drawn here. If you just very lightly draw like a second line right here, then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna draw the shape of the teeth. You can count the teeth. I'm not gonna count the teeth, but if you would like to, you can. Easiest way to draw teeth is you start at the bottom, and then you just do a big frowny face, bring it back. Big frowny face, bring it back. And then you just keep doing this over and over. Now the teeth are gonna get smaller and thinner as they get further away because they're wrapping to the back of the skull because it's curved. So as you get closer to the sides, start drawing them thinner and smaller in order to make it feel as though they're wrapping around the back of the head. Last thing to do on this top part, we have like these little lines indicating where the roots of the teeth are going. So just every now and then if you want to put like a little diagonal line or a little frown line, then you can, just to indicate that that's where those teeth went. And then any other details you want to add, you can. At this point, I would go ahead and erase my guidelines because I don't need them anymore, like this. And then I would start drawing some cracks just by using kind of like, I like to call it a shaky hand. It's where you let your hand kind of wiggle just a little bit in order to draw squigglier lines. The more imperfect it is, the better it'll look. You just add like squiggly lines wherever you see that they are, and that'll make it feel a little bit more realistic. You can also add like the little pockets and stuff that are in the skull, the little holes and things where nerves and stuff come out of. All right, so that's the upper jaw. Lower jaw is pretty simple. You're just going to drop it down from the zygomats, or the cheekbones, and I might be saying that totally wrong, forgive me. But it's just going to be somewhat of a curved diagonal line that's just going to go from here down, like this. Helpful is to draw negative spaces, that's empty spaces. See how this makes like a little triangle shape? I would actually draw that before I draw the rest of it. Notice it kind of stops at the teeth. So I'm just going to start at the teeth. I'm just going to go up like this. I'm just going to draw a little triangle shape right here. That's kind of defining where the cheekbones are as whereas the teeth are. That's just going to give me a little hollow space. That's the gap in this mouth. All right, now I can go ahead and extend this down and then draw a curve for the bottom chin. So I'm just going to do a smiley face to indicate the bottom chin. Make it a little bit further down what you need it to be, because you want to keep in mind you want to still be able to fit the lower teeth as well. So the lower teeth we're going to draw in a similar way that we drew the upper teeth. So I'm just going to first start at the corner of this little hole that I made. I'm just going to do like a little smile coming down and then going back up. So it looks kind of silly at first. And then all I have to do is the exact opposite I did here. So instead of doing like frowny faces, I'm going to do smiley faces. I'm just going to start drawing some teeth like this. Get them smaller as they get further away. So bigger at first and then get them smaller. If you want to, you can count the teeth, but it's not super necessary. I like to darken these things out so that I know that these are holes and not shapes. All right, so after that, you can add any details that you want. So I like to add these little diagonal lines, these little pockets for the different parts. But that's the basics of a very simple skull. Shading it will bring out a lot more detail. So if you would like to, you may add a little bit of shading to make the skull feel a little bit more rounded in different areas. But if you don't want to shade it, of course you don't have to. That's kind of optional. But sometimes shading does make your sketch seem a lot more realistic, and it can bring a lot more life to your picture. All right, so that's a front view. If you would like to continue, I'm going to go ahead and draw the side view real quick. So now I'm going to do this kind of side view here. It's kind of like what we call a 3/4 turn, but I'm going to start in very much the same way that I did last time. I'm just going to start with a circle shape. It's okay if it's not perfect because our skulls are not perfect. All right, so after I get my circle shape, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw. If you'll notice, this kind of comes down. Ignore the bumps and stuff, we'll get those later. This goes down relatively flat. We got a diagonal line, and then this comes back up at a diagonal line as well. So I'm going to first draw this down. If I measure the skull and come down, the size of the jaw right here below that cranium is about half that skull. So about half a skull down is where I'm going to have my chin go down to. And I'm just going to start on the side of the head, go down like this. Once I get close to that chin area, I'm just going to do a little bit of a diagonal line. So it looks kind of like a Dorito chip. So we got straight-ish, little smile, and then once you get close to the back of the cranium, you're just going to go up with it like this. So it's kind of like a little boxy shape on the bottom of the cranium. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and draw. We have a guideline right here that's very helpful. If you draw just like a little curve to separate where the nose is going to go, I'm going to start on the top of the skull, do a slight curve down like this, very lightly, because I want to be able to erase that one later. And then I see that I have my nose. Notice the nose, the bottom of the nose is lining up with the bottom of the cranium. So I know that my nose needs to be somewhere right here-ish. So where that circle meets that line should be about where you want to put your nose. It still follows the same upside down heart shape that the other one did, but it's a little bit more skewed to the side. So what I would do to start is I want to first figure out how tall I want my nose to be. So I'm going to make my nose be about this tall in order to make it fit the picture pretty decently. Now notice this is going to be a diagonal line on this side, and this one's going to be relatively straight. So I'm going to first start off with a slight diagonal line like this, and then I'm going to make this one somewhat straight over here. So this one's straight, and this one's a diagonal line. So you want to make sure you get that difference, because when you're seeing something from side view, you don't see the whole thing, you only see part. All right, now down here I can do like a big smiley face, and then a small smiley face. And that'll make it look like that heart is slightly turned. So big smiley face, then small smiley face. And then on the inside, you can shade that in black, or you can add some of those like details on the inside if you want to. I usually just like to shade it in black. I don't like to get too complicated, but if you would like to look closer at the picture and do that, then you definitely can if you want to. So there's a very simple skeleton nose shape. Now on this part right here, because we're seeing somewhat of the side view, we do see the nose bridge, which is this diagonal line right here. So starting on the outside of this heart, I'm just going to do a short diagonal line that goes like this, and it has that tiny hook at the top of it. So it's just a diagonal line with a tiny short line that goes vertical, okay? All right, now eye shapes, kind of the same format. In the middle of the nose is where I'm gonna have the bottom of my eyes, so I'm just gonna very lightly draw a line so I know how far down to take my eyes. And then I'm gonna measure my nose. Once again, my eyes are about the same height as my nose, so if I measure that, I know that I need to make my nose go up to about here-ish. So I just very lightly sketch across. So I know that's about how high my eyes are gonna be. So now the shape of the eyes are a little bit weirder from this angle. Notice this one, the nose is overlapping the eye, so I don't see the entire thing. So what I would do is I would start my eye on the nose, do a diagonal line, and then we have like a flat line, somewhat of a straight line, and then a little smiley line. So to do that, I'm gonna start here on the nose. I'm gonna do a diagonal line. Once I hit that line, that's where I'm gonna go somewhat flat. And then whenever I get close to the edge of that line that I drew for the edge of the skull, then I'm just going to do a curve going down at a slight angle until I reach this line. And then I'm just gonna do a smiley face until it touches the nose. Okay, so it'll look kind of like a weird box shape. Okay, we will do the outside of the skull later. We're just gonna focus on the eyes for now. All right, so if you want to, you can shade that in, or you can leave it and add more detail, or do whatever you want to. This one here, we can see that it's kind of like a teardrop shape that's really rounded at the edge here. So what I would do is I would start with this shape first and then do this shape afterwards. So this is kind of like a parenthesis just like before, but has a stronger diagonal line that is parallel to the nose. So notice that angle of the nose, that's the angle that eye socket takes. So if it helps, do this angle first so that you know that this is going to be the angle that your eye is going to go at. So this should be parallel to the nose. And then I'm just going to draw a curve that goes like this. That way I know that I have the right shape for the inner eye. And then for the outer eye, I'm just going to go somewhat flat and then just do a big curve to draw that shape for the eye. And then I can just shade it in. Now you'll notice this eye is bigger than this eye. It's because your head is turned. So this is further away, therefore it appears to be smaller. Okay? All right, so now we got this eye, and this nose. Now I would suggest go ahead and draw, for looking at this, we've got the cheekbones, or not the cheekbones, sorry, the temple bones are more dramatic here. And then we also see the cheekbones as well. So I personally like to draw the cheekbones after I draw the temple bones from this perspective, just to make it easier. Notice this is lining up with the bottom eye. So across from the bottom eye, I'm gonna start somewhat at the back of the cranium. I'm just gonna draw like a little frown until I get close to the eye. I'm gonna do a parenthesis. So it's a frown, parenthesis. And then I'm just going to do kind of like, it's called a switchback. So we got like, it goes from a frown to another curve up like this. So it's kind of like a really wonky 3 that is backwards in order to get that look of the temple bone. So we don't see the temple bone over here yet. We're going to draw that in a minute, but this is kind of the shape you're going for. So frowny face, parenthesis, somewhat of a parenthesis that switches back to the opposite direction of a parenthesis. And that'll be all you draw for that particular part. Now, over here is where we're going to do this one now. So keep the cranium the same until you get close to the eye. Once you get close to the eye, you're going to do a slight diagonal line to make the eye socket pop out. And then you're going to curve it back in, follow the eye socket until you get to the bottom. And then you're going to pop it back out. So it's kind of like you're following the cranium, do a parenthesis, curves in like this, and a backwards parenthesis. And now we're going to do the cheekbone, which notice this cheekbone is right across from the bottom of the nose. So right across from the bottom of the nose, I'm just going to do like a little frown that connects to this. This will be the cheekbone. And you can make that as sharp as you want, or you can make it smoother depending on the look you're going for. So after you get the little cheekbone, then you can go ahead and do the mouth and the other stuff. So before I do the mouth, I'm going to go ahead and do this other cheekbone so that I don't get lost. But if I go right across from the previous one I just drew, it should be lining up with that. So right across from this cheekbone is about where I want to put my other one. So in order to draw this cheekbone, I'm just going to draw kind of like a parenthesis, or not a parenthesis, sorry, a smiley face that lines with the bottom of the eye right here. So it should emphasize that curve of the eye socket. And then it kind of goes very skinny right here next to the temple bone. So I'm just going to do like a little frown. So big parenthesis, big frown. And notice that this is starting about the middle of the eye socket, by the way. I didn't mention that, sorry. But about the middle of the eye socket is where you want to start that. All right, so now I have my cheekbones and I've got my temple bones and stuff. So now I can move on to the actual mouth. So following the same rules as last time, the mouth is basically just like a weird square, and then you've got the teeth hooking up inside of it. So here I'm just going to do a kind of like a flat line that's somewhat diagonal until I get however far down I want to go for my teeth. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw the same thing over here. So another flat line right here. So 2 flat lines first, and then I'm going to do a smiley face, boop, that connects them like this. Now notice that I'm kind of making it smile more here, and this is more of a slope. That's because when your head is turned, your teeth rotate with the head. It sounds weird, but it kind of curves with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw another line for how tall I want my teeth to be. Once again, kind of somewhat curving. And then doing the same thing I did on the last one is if you just do frowny faces until they like touch that line, and make sure that they get a little bit smaller as they get further back. They're going to get to be somewhat smaller teeth. And once again, I'm not counting. I'm not worried about making this perfect, but if you would like to count your teeth, you can. And then you can just draw little diagonals or little triangles to do the small details of the wrinkles that the roots make for your teeth. All right, so now we're almost done. Once again, I would do for the lower jaw, I would do the empty space right here. So it makes kind of like we have the cheekbone and we have the teeth. So all we have to do is a parenthesis here. So I'm just going to start here, drop it down until it touches, actually it needs to go a little further down, sorry, until it gets a little bit below your teeth line, because this is going to line up with your bottom teeth. So it's just kind of like a little parenthesis here, like that. And then if you want to, you can shade that in so you know that that's a hole and it's not part of the actual skull itself. All right, so I see that this right here is a little too skinny for my jawbone, because notice the jawbone is fairly wide. So I'm going to scoot this line over. If yours is good, you can leave it or you can expand it. So this is going to touch the cheekbone. It's going to go fairly straight down, a little bit wonky. We have a tiny smile with this dip, and then we're just going to do a diagonal line and then curve it back up. So starting back here on the cheekbone, I'm just going to do somewhat of a straight-ish line. Whenever I get close to the bottom of the chin, though, I'm going to start curving it. Add that little dimple where it dips in, so it's like a little smiley face. And then I'm just going to do that diagonal line. And this one has kind of like a curved chin. If you would like to add that, you can, or you can leave it smooth, kind of up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and add a little dip there just to make it look cooler. All right, now notice the chin sticks out just a tiny bit, and then the teeth kind of make a diagonal back to the other teeth. So to get that, it's kind of like you're drawing like a greater than or less than sign, but make it curvy. So right here, I'm just going to put a dip in. And then whenever I get to where I think I want my teeth, I'm just going to do another diagonal line out like this. So it's got kind of like a strong chin look to them. All right, now I do the same thing that I did last time with my teeth. I'm just going to do a little smile, and then I'm just going to do little smiley faces instead of frowny faces. Once again, as they get further away, they should start getting smaller because your teeth are getting further back and stuff like that. All right, and if you want to, you can add the little diagonal lines or little V's in order to make it look like the wrinkles and stuff. And from here, all we have left to do is this back of the cranium, which is where we have a smile hooking at the back of the cranium. So I'm just going to do right here at the back of the cranium, I'm just going to do like a little smile face like this. And then I'm just going to draw my actual cranium. I'm just going to make mine a little bit bigger because I feel like the cranium's a little small. I'm just following that curve until I get back up to the top like this. All right, so after this, if you have any guidelines that you don't want, you can erase them. And then anything that you want to add for details, so I'm going to add a couple of these cracks and stuff because I think the cracks make the skull looks cooler. So I'm just going to add some of these little cracks right here. This little crack right here. And once again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not drawing everything 100% accurate. I'm just drawing like what I was seeing. So, and I might be missing things. So feel free to use your own references if you would like to, of course. All right, so look back at your pictures and stuff. One thing I do see is that there's kind of like a triangle thing here, a box thing here that I would add to kind of show that shape of the jawbone because it does have an indentation there. All right, after this, if you would like to, you can add a little bit of shading in order to add a little bit more of a 3D look to your skull, especially whenever it comes to like the temples and the jawbone area. That can really make your skull pop and make it look more three-dimensional and make it look cooler and stuff. So, all right, so there's a side view of a skull. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits there. If you would like to learn how to draw like another point of view, just let me know and I'd be more than happy to show you. Okay, all right, thanks for drawing with me. Bye.